What's that?
Like, in your gut, do you think that fight will ultimately end up happening?
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying it since the beginning, and John Jones agreed to do the fight. So John Jones was offered the deal and accepted the deal.
Dana White says John Jones agreed to fight Tom Aspinall, but now he's dodging and disappearing.
John's been tweeting a lot about the fact that he's told you his plans, he's ready to vacate the belt, and all the rest of it.
He said he's ready to vacate the belt?
He said he doesn't care if you strip it, but he would vacate it.
Crazy.
UFC CEO Dana White recently sent shockwaves through the MMA community when he revealed that John Jones has in fact agreed to fight Tom Aspinall. Despite swirling rumors, heated social media back and forth, and ongoing fan debates, White claimed the fight is not just a possibility, it's a reality waiting to be finalized. According to White, Jones was offered the bout and accepted it, though the timeline for the fight is still uncertain. The fight, if it happens, could reshape the heavyweight landscape, but with everything happening behind the scenes, the entire situation feels like a chess match.
It's a conversation we've had many times now, the Tom Aspinall-John Jones fight. It's a bit different now, right? Because John's been tweeting a lot about the fact that he's told you his plans, he's ready to vacate the belt, and all the rest of it.
He said he's ready to vacate the belt?
He said he doesn't care if you strip it, but he would vacate it.
Crazy. Yeah, I've been busy. I haven't been keeping up with the gossip. He comes back. He's either back today or came back yesterday or whenever he's in Thailand. So he's home. We'll be home tonight, Tuesday. We'll figure this out.
But if he doesn't fight Tom Aspinall and he does walk away, do you think he's ducked him? Would you?
Tom Aspinall's the guy. He's the guy. Listen, if the guy wants to retire and doesn't want to fight, nothing you do. I didn't want Habib to retire. I thought DC should have stayed in it longer. So it's none of my business. I'll do what I can to make the fight if we can. If he's talking that crazy shit, I didn't realize that.
White made it clear that he's not letting online noise affect his decision-making, even with Jones teasing a potential fight against Francis Ngannou and responding vaguely to title-stripping speculation. White stood firm. John has agreed, and the UFC wants the Jones vs. Aspinall showdown. However, he also hinted that nothing is ever simple when it comes to booking John Jones. In his words, it's always like dealing with an artist, complicated, unpredictable, and time-consuming.
It was kind of crazy how much interest John showed in the Francis Ngannou fight. Like, there was some tweets going back and forth. What would happen if he came to you and says, like, I'll fight, but I won't fight Aspinall, I would fight Ngannou? Would you even be interested in that or no?
I don't have Ngannou on her contract, and Aspinall's the guy.
Right. If you were put in the position, would you maybe try to get Ngannou back under contract or no?
Probably not.
While White dismissed Francis Ngannou's chances of returning to the UFC, the chatter between Jones and Aspinall continues to stir controversy. Aspinall recently claimed he considers himself the real champion and has moved on from waiting for Jones. He expressed a desire to fight twice before the end of the year, believing Jones is retired and out of the picture. For Aspinall, the focus is now on the next step, regardless of whether that includes Jones or not. His likely opponent, if Jones steps aside, could be Cyril Gane, one of the few remaining top heavyweights Aspinall hasn't faced.
Chael and I love professional wrestling. This was a moment to be made. You call out Tom Aspinall, you walk his butt into the octagon as the man that's getting his hand raised. It's your moment. You can almost big dog Tom Aspinall. Cyril Gane no-sells you. He lets you sit there with your thumb in your mouth, just sitting there with nothing to do. Now you're the man. Cyril Gane now wants an opportunity at you. Do you big dog him, or do you go, okay, my ultimate get back to you is...
I'll kick his same as everybody else.
Were you disappointed that he didn't call you in? Like, get in here, Tom Aspinall, I'm gonna get...
I was in Paris, like, that's his place. I would have got booed out of the arena, but that was fine. Like, I was there for it. But listen, it worked out good for me in the end. I ended up fighting Pavlovich. I got a new contract. I got a big knockout. I got the interim title, defended it. Like, it worked out pretty good, so yeah. I ain't complaining.
Yeah, you should we are both in agreement that you should no-sell him now. I would make him win 10 fights to get a title fight if I was you. I'd be like, nope, you want to do me like that? You disrespect me? This is my way of getting you back.
Meanwhile, new insights from Ariel Helwani gave even more weight to the complexity of the situation. Speaking on his YouTube show, Helwani disclosed 3 critical updates about the stalled negotiations. First, he stated that Jones initially made massive financial demands to fight Aspinall, figures comparable to what top boxers might expect. Surprisingly, the UFC met those demands. According to Helwani, Jones agreed, but later backed away from the deal. That alone has thrown the status of the fight into complete uncertainty.
And what did I say to all of you? What was it? 2 months ago now? 3 months ago? They got him the money. I'm not even going to call it money because as I've said from the beginning, he always deserved millions upon millions of dollars. Money, it's what he's owed. It's what he's worked to achieve. But, you know, there was a back and forth, They got him that money. They finally got him that money. And he said yes. And then he said no. And since he said no, they've been trying to figure out a way to get him to do this fight. One last fight. He ain't budging. And he's been starting to give us some sort of indication, hints, that he is not interested. But right before 316, he gave us many indications. And when I say not interested, I don't mean not interested in fighting. I mean not interested in fighting Tom Aspinall specifically.
Secondly, Helwani emphasized that despite Jones's hesitation, the UFC is still pushing forward with the fight. Dana White has made it abundantly clear, both publicly and privately, that the fight needs to happen. For the UFC, this is the fight that makes the most sense in the heavyweight division, and it's the one fans have been demanding. However, Jones reportedly isn't interested in participating in the UFC's effort to make it happen.
He's giving you hints. He's done. He doesn't want to do this anymore. I spoke to the UFC a long time ago about what my future plans were. I haven't really worked out since my last fight in New York. Honestly, I believe it's been in the UFC's best interest to keep presenting me as the company's champion, not Tom. This idea of the TV deal has been brought up. This fight is pre-TV deal. New TV deal comes into play. So it's not really in their best interest. But anyway, I've been playing the role of company man by doing nothing at all. John, company man. Maybe the greatest contradiction of all time. The UFC has done more for Jon Jones than any fighter on the roster, and that includes Conor McGregor. They have bent backwards more for him than any fighter in the history of the sport. Lest we forget, around 7 years ago, they moved an event on fight week because he was not going to get cleared by the Nevada State Athletic Commission. They moved it to California. They have never done that for anyone. They probably will never do that again.
The third bombshell from Helwani is that Jones does still want to fight, but not against Tom Aspinall. That revelation, if accurate, throws a wrench into everything the UFC has been working on and further complicates an already chaotic heavyweight picture. It's highly unusual for a sitting champion to avoid a #1 contender. If Jones does continue to refuse the fight, the UFC may be forced to strip him of the belt. That would elevate Aspinall to full champion status and potentially set him up to defend against Gain or another top contender.
He's not doing the right thing. He didn't do the right thing with the light heavyweight belt, and he sure as hell is not doing the right thing here because Tom Aspinall has been the guy long before he even fought Stipe Miocic. So remember that when you're comparing legacies. Remember that when he's talking about legacy. What will this do for his legacy? How will he be remembered as opposed to how GSP is remembered? More from Dana.
Adding fuel to the fire, Tom Aspinall recently said that the UFC is preparing to officially announce Jones's retirement. He spoke cautiously but confidently, saying his previous claims about Jones being done were not jokes or exaggerations. Aspinall said he's not trying to stir the pot, but simply speaking the truth as he knows it. With that announcement possibly on the horizon, the entire landscape of the heavyweight division could shift dramatically in the coming weeks.
I saw an interview where it said you and John are aligned and you guys have decided together to allow for the UFC to tell you what you're doing. Is that true?
No, man, John's retired. What are we talking about, guys?
What do you mean?
John, you guys don't follow John on social media?
I don't follow him on social media. He said that.
No, me too, actually. Me too, but the guy is living his best life. He's had a fantastic career, we all know. we know John's a religious man, so I want to say God bless him moving forward in what he does with his life and his career. And you know, we move on. We move on. I'm the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. I'm ready to take on all comers, get this division moving again. Us guys have been waiting around too long. You know, the contenders are getting sick of it. Everybody's getting sick of it. Even the fans are getting sick of this stuff. So John's retired and it's time that we move on.
At a recent UFC press conference, commentator John Anik hinted at a potential fight date between Jones and Aspinall. According to him, the UFC might be eyeing December in Las Vegas for this blockbuster bout. He made it clear he wasn't speaking from inside information, but was optimistic based on the ongoing chatter. Anik also noted that the fight would be even bigger if both men entered the cage as champions. That possibility is now under threat if the UFC strips Jones due to inactivity or refusal to fight.
John, does Aspinall and Jones happen in 2025? What's your gut tell you?
Yeah, I think we see it December 2025. T-Mobile Arena, Dateline, Las Vegas.
Not New York. Why not New York?
Well, John Jones fought and won at Madison Square Garden in New York last November. I'm a Boston guy. No, I mean, he checked that box. I'm not sure what the taxes are. But why does John Jones need to fight at Madison Square Garden? Why not fight at T-Mobile Arena in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada? You guys live there. No? I don't know.
I'm feeling it, yeah.
Interestingly, Chael Sonnen, a former UFC fighter and current analyst, made a bold claim that adds another twist to the saga. He stated on his YouTube channel that John Jones demanded $12 million for the Aspinall fight, and the UFC agreed to it. According to Sonnen, the payout would not just be the biggest of Jones's career, but the largest paycheck in UFC history, surpassing even those of Brock Lesnar, Georgia St-Pierre, and Ronda Rousey. Despite this financial agreement, Sonnen maintained that Jones hasn't outright declined the fight. He theorized that Jones is still playing the game, possibly holding out for more leverage or simply taking his time.
Allegedly, the number that John wanted, and I believe that to be $12 million. I got my own sources. I don't believe that John's turned it down. Even though Ariel's confirmed it, even though that's believed in our industry, I do not believe that John Jones got a phone call matching John Jones's demands and he said no. And I do not believe that John Jones would play that game of chicken. Moreover, I don't believe that if he did, we wouldn't have heard about it. If they believe it, if it's to the point that they're ready to move on, it's to the point when they're done trying is when they go book a different fight for Tom.
Michael Bisping, another former UFC champion and now a prominent commentator, shared his own theory on why the fight hasn't been officially announced. He believes the UFC is waiting for the perfect moment to reveal the fight in grand fashion. In his view, a bout of this magnitude deserves a full-scale promotional rollout, including press conferences and media tours, not just a casual mention on YouTube or social media. He added that even when he was an active fighter, the UFC strictly controlled fight announcements to ensure they got maximum attention. Bisping insisted that the Jones versus Aspinall fight is one of the most anticipated matchups in UFC history and should be treated accordingly. He suggested that the silence and lack of official confirmation might not be a bad sign, but rather a strategic move by the UFC to maximize hype.
Now, of course, this is one of the most highly anticipated fights in all of UFC history. And you can't just announce it, oh, the fight's going to happen. No.
That's stupid.
Fights of this magnitude, the UFC want to do a proper job. They want to announce it in a spectacular fashion. They want to have a press conference. They want the world's media there. They don't want someone on YouTube or whatever or on the phone just going, yeah, the fight's happening, right? Even when I was fighting my fights, I wasn't allowed to announce them. They wanted to announce them, as I say, in the proper way to make sure that all the world's media is there and it gets all the coverage that it deserves. This is the kind of fight that, of course, deserves that kind of attention. This is a fight the world are crying out for, and this is a fight that it seems like we are going to see.
I told you guys already, we'll get Aspinall versus Jones done. The heavyweight fight will happen. Just relax. I'll announce that soon.
All this speculation comes after Jones stunned fans during a seminar in Thailand when he claimed that he and Aspinall had agreed to wait on the UFC's green light. That statement only deepened the confusion, especially since Aspinall publicly dismissed the idea and said he had already lined up another opponent. The disconnect between what Jones says and what he actually does has made the situation even harder to follow.
When are you fighting Tom?
I was waiting for it. When are you fighting Tom, like, governor? The UFC in town, we all got a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes. They're one of the biggest organizations in sports, and right now Tom and I have agreed to wait for the UFC to make their announcements. So I legally can't really talk about it.
Cain Velasquez, a former heavyweight champion, acknowledged Tom Aspinall's rise in the division, but expressed doubts about his ability to overcome a strategic fighter like Jon Jones. Velasquez noted that while Aspinall possesses impressive power and movement, his attack patterns tend to become predictable. This predictability, Velasquez argued, plays into Jones's strengths, his analytical mind and ability to methodically dismantle opponents. Instead of relying on brute force, Jones would focus on disrupting Aspinall's rhythm, exploiting weaknesses, and using superior tactics and mental preparation to control the fight.
What do you think of Tom?
Great, obviously, you know, champion of the world. Amazing, you know, he's beaten some tough guys to get there.
You think he beats Jon Jones?
No, I don't think he does.
Why not?
So me just watching him, I kind of see his pattern a little bit, and his striking, the way he comes in and strikes. And I think Jon sees it too. Jon's a studies, man. He does his homework, you know? He's a master at this. He's gonna know what to do. So I don't think he beats Jon. No. The simple fact is the way Tom he doesn't have a pattern that's somewhat easier to find when he comes in and strikes. And I think you know what we're talking about. You know, a lot of things come with that. It's disguising your pattern. It's throwing fakes here and there before. But when he comes to attacks, he comes in and attacks. It's 100% full go. You know. He comes in, glides in, lunges in, and does his attack. Again, not that it's not effective, it is. You know, he's done great things with it. The type of guy that Jon Jones is, I think he studies them and he beats them because of that.
Martin Tybura offered a contrasting viewpoint, suggesting the ongoing delay in finalizing the fight isn't due to indecision, but is instead a calculated move to build hype. He believed that both fighters and the UFC are using the suspense strategically to maximize public interest and bargaining power. The prolonged anticipation, according to Tybura, is designed to boost the fight's commercial appeal, ensuring it reaches its peak value before any official announcement.
It's crazy to think what this guy is capable of and how quick that was, and where is the roof? That's the only question. Who can stop him right now? I cannot tell. I know, Jon Jones in his prime time maybe, but now he's might be a little bit older, and the skills might be not there. So I don't know. It's crazy where he's going to.
Curtis Blaydes leaned slightly towards Aspinall, giving the interim champion a slight advantage of around 55%. However, he emphasized the monumental challenge Aspinall faces when stepping up against a seasoned champion like Jones. Blaydes respected Aspinall's talent, but underscored the difficulty of toppling a fighter of Jones's caliber, who combines experience, composure, and versatility in a way few others can match. He made it clear that Aspinall would need near perfection to pull off an upset.
Now, do you think Aspinall beats him?
Yeah, I would pick him. Like, I would go 55% him. Obviously, it's not gonna be a landslide. Like, we're going against Jon Jones. He's a legend. You got all the weapons.
Rashad Evans, who has previously faced Jones, took a more contemplative approach, recognizing Jones's immense accomplishments, but highlighting the mental toll that defending such a legacy can take. While he appreciated Aspinall's momentum and the excitement around the matchup, Evans empathized with Jones's cautious stance. From Evans's perspective, Jones isn't necessarily dodging the fight out of fear, but is carefully weighing whether risking his hard-earned status is worthwhile at this point in his career.
All right, last thing. Jon Jones, Tom Aspinall, who you got?
I got Jon Jones. I think Tom Aspinall is a man, but I feel like, Jon Jones is just another level. He can do it in so many different ways with his striking, with his grappling, and I feel like, being in a situation, coming in a fight where he's kind of being pushed into this point, I feel.
Tom's a big boy.
Yeah, but I feel like with Jon's a big boy too, and Jon knows how to fight like a big boy. Right. One thing I feel like what Tom does really well is he moves so well, and I feel like that may give Jon a little bit of trouble, but I feel like Jon is smart enough to figure it out.
Georges St-Pierre provided a longer-term perspective, pointing out that no matter how great a fighter is, age and wear eventually impact their physical abilities. He praised Jones as one of the all-time greats, but warned that declines in timing, reaction, and stamina are inevitable. St-Pierre saw Aspinall's youth and explosive athleticism as significant threats, particularly if Jones isn't in peak condition. Yet, he believed that with enough motivation, especially financial incentives, Jones could still rise to the occasion and end his career on a high note.
Ever lives, talk about if I have to choose someone in his prime that I put in the Coliseum hand to hand, I think I would be John Jones. You know, it's hard to deny that. However, nobody beats time, and Tom Aspinall is on a hell of a run now. So it's to see how they get a match. You know, it's hard to say. It's hard to say. As a fan, I want to see this fight. I would like to see this fight, but I think Tom is very hungry, and it's up to John to see if he still wants to do this and if the UFC can compensate him good, because I think he deserves it. So it's going to be a hell of a fight.
Arman Tsarukyan focused on the tactical side of the potential matchup, highlighting Jones's reach and range control as critical advantages. Tsarukyan suggested that Jones would avoid wild exchanges, instead patiently selecting moments to strike and using his superior distance management to neutralize Aspinall's aggression. By doing so, Jones could force Aspinall into mistakes, turning his forward pressure into missed opportunities rather than damaging blows.
Who do you see as the #1 pound-for-pound guy in the UFC right now? Is it Makhachev? Is it somebody else?
Of course, it's John Jones.
It's John Jones?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. We got to get him fighting Tom Aspinall maybe this summer.
Yeah, that's the fight everybody wants to see, even me. And because young guy versus like GOAT and real like heavyweight. So I feel like it's gonna be hard for John Jones.
Israel Adesanya echoed similar thoughts, particularly regarding the ground game. He emphasized that if Jones could secure takedowns early and dictate the fight's pace, it would heavily favor the former champion. Adesanya argued that Jones's ability to slow down the action and control the tempo would drain Aspinall's energy and disrupt his explosive start, preventing the fight from becoming the fast-paced striking battle Aspinall thrives on.
Who wins, Aspinall, John Jones? If that does happen.
I don't know, man. But Aspinall, the way he dispatched of us,
the Russian guy.
Oh my God! But he's the same height as me, if not an inch taller, but thick.
Yeah.
The speed.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I'm like, okay, that's the danger. But again, grappling, he's a black belt.
Leg bump. Who give?
John is.
That's different.
They gotta fight, but if they don't ever fight, we'll never know.
Frank Mir, another former heavyweight champion, examined the stylistic matchup and acknowledged Aspinall's knockout power and sharp striking. However, Mir believed Jones's grappling and positional control would ultimately decide the outcome. He argued that Jones has little to prove at this stage and that opting out of the fight wouldn't harm his legacy. Mir saw the risk-reward balance as heavily skewed against Jones, making any hesitation on his part understandable given the potential downside.
I think Tom might have the best chance of anybody to beat John right now. But that being said, I still think John wins the fight just because of his wrestling. I think he puts, Tom on his back and is able to nullify his jiu-jitsu for being top position with his elbows and control. What does John win to take that fight? He goes out there and beats Tom. Is it really going to make or break his career? I don't think anybody cares.
As it stands, the UFC finds itself in uncharted territory. If Jones won't fight Aspinall and refuses to step aside voluntarily, the organization faces a tough decision. They could strip him and move on, or continue trying to coax him back into the octagon. Either way, the heavyweight division is on hold, and fans are growing impatient. If Jones truly wants to cement his legacy, facing Aspinall is the fight to make. But if he walks away, Aspinall will carry the division forward, with or without the legend standing in his path.